Well, welcome everyone. It's nice to see all of you here on our Thursday morning. I'm going to go ahead and start moving forward with our agenda. We have a lot going on, and we have this is our normal quarterly workshop. But since we do not live in normal times, it's being broken up into two workshops. The first being today on June 25th. And the second one will be on July 22nd, and it will be from 11 to 12 a.m. So today, we are continuing with our kind of awareness theme that we've started at the beginning of this year. And also, as always, continuing with how do we help entrepreneurs. So we're going to be hearing from we're also building into this best practices. So awareness of best practices, awareness of what other groups are doing, but also giving us some tools on how we can create more awareness about the businesses that we work with. So Justine, if you'll move on. Why are we here? As always, and this is especially important for the folks who are new to our meeting. We meet quarterly as the Upstate Entrepreneur Ecosystem, which means that we're here to increase the ecosystem, or all of our ability and our capacity to help entrepreneurs be more successful faster. Justine. And who is part of this group? Anyone who works with entrepreneurs, anyone who champions entrepreneurs, anyone who is an entrepreneur and wants to make sure that entrepreneurs have more resources so that they can be more successful faster. And it's all types of entrepreneurs. We do not discern the difference between high growth or Main Street or micro, or if they're an existing business owner. It is anyone who is serving customers in such a way that they are deriving revenue from it. So today's activities, as always, are to learn, connect, and empower. So we are going to learn from Jonathan Irick with Main Street Lawrence and Amanda Munyon with the Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce. They're going to talk to us about how they have found a way to do what they call digital audits for their businesses. And this is working with them to find out where they are on the digital spectrum in terms of their capacity to have a website, social media, Facebook page, and then where they're lacking, and then what kind of training needs do they have so that they can then become more digitally active. And this became important in our program today because when we talked to folks in the counties, the 10 counties over the past few months, we found that there were pretty much three key things that impeded or either compelled success. One was the ability to pivot and adapt. The second was kind of financial statements and having all of your books in order so that you could make very good decisions about what you needed to cut, where to add revenue. But then the third was also the ability to get information off the internet, but to give information or to provide information on the internet. I'm sure all of you, when you want to go out to dinner or you want to shop, first thing you do is you pull up your phone and you find out what the new hours are. Correct? Yep. Is it really open? What are, do I just have to order? Can I go in? There are all kinds of new rules, and we are all pretty much looking towards our phones or our digital information source to find the answers. So Jonathan and Amanda are working with the businesses in Lawrence to do that. So that's what we're learning about today. Next time we will learn about how we can help our businesses put together financial documents so that they can know where their foundation is. And Earl Grigorich is going to work on that with us in July. Today we will connect as well, and I'll have you a little bit later fill out some things in the chat box. And then empower is we're not going to have any breakouts today, but that is your opportunity to ask questions and go back into your communities, go back to your entrepreneurs Go back to the folks that you work with and say, how can we take what we learned today and apply it to our clients and our entrepreneurs? Next one, please. All right, so going forward, our workshops, we're looking at, well, we have it all planned for the year. Now we have no idea what we're going to do. We're just going to kind of see what everybody needs. I do know that in Q3, we will be talking about Global Entrepreneurship Week. You know, it's interestingly, everybody said that we don't need to have any more events. Well, guess what? We're probably not having many more events, at least not in person. But we will be thinking about ways to do things such as have our county councils and city councils proclaim Global Entrepreneurship Week, or, you know, Entrepreneurship Day or something like that, so that we can just start to get more awareness around entrepreneurship. In Q4, usually we have Michael and his firm Ogletree Deacons to do something for us, and we'll just kind of see what we can do. All right, Justine. I do have some announcements today. The 10 at the Top website is now promoting all of our events. So if you have events or anything going on, please send it to Justine at 10atthetop.org, J. Allen at 10atthetop.org. She will make sure that your events get to the right people, so they will get posted on the website. We have said for years that we need to have a calendar. Well, you know what? We're going to use the 10 at the Top calendar, and thanks to Dean and the staff over there for making that happen. One of the other things that we're doing is where to go for help resource videos. This is a new project, but it goes back to the awareness. Everyone says nobody knows how to find us. So since we're all used to this technology that we're using today, we've decided to do videos of different types of resources available. And these would be about 15-minute videos that we will then post on the 10 at the Top website. We will make available to you to post wherever you want to. We'll have YouTube channel. We will post on social media, so that when people are saying, I am a farmer and I want to raise pigs, but I need funding, they can put all of that into Google and hopefully find one of these videos that will then introduce them to the resource, so that they can then contact you to get the information that they need. So in order to do this, we're starting off with a survey to all of you to find out kind of where your sweet spots are. Who do you work best with? What type of support do you do better than someone else? What type of entrepreneurs do you like to work with? All the same things that we've been talking about over the years, but now we're going to actually quantify it and put it down into some sort of a database or record keeping. We are very thankful Justine is here, and she's going to do that for us. So Justine, thank you. So in the next couple of weeks, watch for that survey and please fill it out, because we're going to use the information from that survey to figure out who needs to be in those resource videos. And then also we have a group. The last thing is we've been working with a group on a kind of a grand vision for how do we continue over the long term to coordinate our ecosystem. We are moving forward with that. We're getting very close to something. So, but be watching for that in the next couple of months for information on that. But if you have thoughts about how to do, you know, what you would like to see, please email me or Justine, because we want to hear from everyone. But I'm going to stop here for a second. Does anybody have any questions about what I've just announced, or suggestions or thoughts, or Erin, that's a total waste of time, whatever? And please unmute yourself if you want to say it, because we'd love to hear. Okay, pretty quiet. Okay, all right, Justine, we're moving forward.
Brittany had a chat item that it's an awesome idea. So.
Oh, okay. All right, well, thank you. And I see Brittany, thank you for the nice comment too. All right, moving on, thank you, Justine. The annual eShip Summit is now going to be virtual, so everyone can attend. It is September 15th and 16th, and we know very little right now about the structure of how that's going to be, but we know that their intention is to have communities somewhat watch it together or collectively and use that to not only inspire conversations, but to structure conversations about how they can build a foundation of support for the entrepreneurs in their particular backyard. So continue to watch for more information on that. Next. Global Entrepreneurship Week, we referred to that already, November 16 to 22. Just keep that on your calendars. Now, all right, connect. Everyone in the chat area, please put your name, your organization, and what are two things that your business owners, that you think your business owners could do right now to build a more resilient business? And I know that's a tricky one, but if there's something you could think of, you know, that can make a difference, that would allow them to be more resilient right now, please put that in. And secondly, and this isn't on the slide, but if you need help with anything, please include that. So like if you have an entrepreneur who needs to know how to access some type of extrusion company to build a prototype, put that in there, because there might be somebody who knows that and can help point you in the right direction. All right. Justine, just move it to the next. All right, while you're doing that, I will take a minute. Y'all all pretty much know Michael Nail. We have an official name for his legal minute with Michael. He is with Ogletree Deacons, and we are very thankful for their support of our ecosystem meetings. And we are so thankful that Michael comes and attends every time, and he shares his expertise with all of us, and he answers our questions, and he helps us help our entrepreneurs understand how to navigate employment law, especially with so many of the changes that are happening right now, and so many requirements or questions. And he specifically is going to talk today about bringing employees back. So while y'all are continuing, I'm going to turn it over to Michael. And thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Erin. And yes, I'm very happy with the new name for this. I think now I need some intro music too. So once we get that, we should be good to go. But it's good to see and hear from everybody again. We're going to run through this pretty quickly. Justine, can you please go to the next slide for me? So just as a quick reminder, I presented to you all, I believe it was in March or April, on the FFCRA and CARES Act. I'm sure that you're very familiar with the CARES Act at this point, particularly the PPP program, as it relates to your businesses or for the entrepreneurs that you support. But I did want to remind you of these two new laws, particularly the FFCRA, because it applies until December 31st of this year. When I presented to you back in March and April, I was not of the opinion that this would be continuing on this long or into the fall. And so I want you to be aware of the emergency paid sick leave, EPSL, as well as the emergency FMLA, because if you recall, the EFMLA is going to apply and provide an additional FMLA qualifying event for school closures, child care closures, anything having to do with an employee taking care of their son or daughter because of a closure. And right now, we're not sure if schools are going to be reopening, and if so, to what extent. So that's something to look out for if somebody still has weeks of FMLA left. Something like that to provide or care for a child due to a school closure might qualify for paid EFMLA under this new law that's in effect until the end of the year. So I think the slides should be available and the recording from my last presentation should be available. So please access that for more information, just to refresh yourself if you need it. Justine, can you please move on for me? All right, so two big new issues that are coming up around the country and possibly in South Carolina are workers' compensation presumption laws and liability protections for employers. So many states have implemented laws that provide a workers' compensation presumption if an employee alleges that they have contracted COVID-19 at work. What this would do is push that claim and any damages associated with that claim into the workers' comp system and prevent that employee from suing an employer in tort for some type of negligence action, saying that the employer didn't do enough to prevent the spread of the virus and they got it. And to take it a step further, a lot of states are implementing liability protections to say that employees cannot sue employers that comply with all applicable guidelines unless they engage in some sort of intentional or reckless conduct. Both of these types of laws have been introduced in South Carolina, but have not yet been passed. And they're not likely to be reconsidered until September, when the General Assembly returns. So these are two things to keep in mind and would go a long way in protecting employers if an employee alleges that they contracted the disease at work. So can you move on to the next slide for me? All right, so there's many things that we could talk about as far as best practices, how to keep your employees safe, and all the applicable guidelines. As a general matter, one of the things that I told you in March and April was to find resources that are applicable to your business. The CDC, as you'll see on my last slide, has actually devoted a section specifically to small employers, because a lot of things that a small employer might do is going to be a lot different than a large manufacturing facility, for example. So really it's finding those guidelines, finding what's applicable to your business, and complying with those to the fullest extent practicable. At this point, many months have gone by since we have had to deal with this situation. So most of us are well aware of just the general requirements nowadays: social distance requirements, wearing masks, making sure that you are washing your hands or hand sanitizer appropriately. I know that if I go into the office, right when I go in, I'm going to have to certify that I have not been diagnosed with COVID-19, haven't tested positive, haven't been around anybody that has been symptomatic or tested positive. There's going to be hand sanitizer for me. There's going to be temporary masks for me. I'm going to see signs that say maintain social distancing. Before I get on the elevator, it's going to say only two or less people are going to be allowed. And if there's two people allowed in here, you're going to be separated as much as possible. You're also going to see signs in my workplace that say, there's two people limited in the break room at a time. So it's things like that that are becoming more prevalent just in everyday society. And those types of things are things to look for in order to protect your employees. And I'll say this: a lot of it can be very overwhelming. And I think the best thing to do is to comply to the fullest extent practicable that you can, and really just do your best and find the guidelines that are applicable. And keep in mind too that these are going to be changing very frequently. For example, I'm sure, as you know, Greenville just implemented the face mask covering for if you go into a pharmacy or grocery store a couple of days ago. So things are still changing rapidly, but a lot of it now is using common sense and using these best practices that we've been accustomed to over the last couple months. Can you move on to the next slide for me? All right, so next time we're going to talk about what happens if an employee gets sick at work. This might involve quarantine. It might involve notifying the other employees of what has happened. So we're running out of time here, but that's something that we're going to discuss in the July meeting. Can you move to the next slide for me? All right, so as I told you before, Ogletree has a lot of resources. We put out articles, podcasts, anything that you can think of to try to keep up with these issues. We have it on our website. Can you move to the next slide for me? And perhaps more applicable to you is a lot of these different guidelines and different guidances that I've listed here. The IRS guidance, again, is going to have things related to the PPP process. Also, the Department of Treasury guidance will as well. I've included a link to that CDC small business guideline that I referenced earlier. So hopefully that will be of assistance to you when advising the entrepreneurs and other small businesses about how to reopen and the best practices associated with that. But I hope this was helpful. We know that this is an ever-changing issue, but it's also an issue that is important to keep the employees safe and prevent any potential liability associated with a contraction at work. So with that said, I think that wraps us up for today. But I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And also, if anything comes up outside of this meeting, feel free to reach out to me.
Michael, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Michael, are you seeing any business or any employees or businesses being approached by as being responsible, lawsuits or anything like that?
In as far as the South Carolina is concerned, my firm is tracking all these types of lawsuits that are popping up around the country. And in South Carolina, there have not been many at all, thankfully. But most of the lawsuits we're seeing right now are failure to provide the emergency paid sick leave or the emergency FMLA under the FFCRA. But keep in mind, a lot of businesses are also just now continuing to reopen. So we might see a different wave of lawsuits associated with contractions at work, for example, whereas a lot of the previous lawsuits have been related to the leave that was not given to the employee.
Okay. All right, good. Michael, thank you. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself. No. All right, well, good. Well, Michael, thank you very much. Looking forward to July. And now I want to turn it over to Jonathan and Amanda. Jonathan's going to go first, and he is the executive director of Main Street Lawrence. He's the one who actually receives the funding for the program, and he's going to tell you about their technology audit and the work that they're doing to help their Main Street businesses kind of step up to the next level. All right, so Jonathan, all yours.
All right, thank you, Erin. Justine, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. First of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I want to give you just a little bit of background for those of you who may not be familiar. I know Laura Hudson's on here, who's another Main Street director in Greenwood, but the Main Street program is part of the National Main Street Center, and what we do is we work to revitalize older and historic commercial districts. We do that through building vibrant neighborhoods, thriving economies. We're looking at bringing in new businesses, festivals and events, working with the design of our downtowns. So we have sort of a 4-point approach that we use. The National Main Street Center, or what we call as Main Street America, was once part of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Now we are an affiliate organization of that group, and the national group has been celebrating 40 years this year of doing Main Street work. Main Street South Carolina began back in the 80s, and then Main Street Lawrence, we started in 1991. And there are about 27 communities right now in South Carolina that are using this approach to revitalizing their downtown, and we're super excited about that. Justine? So we were fortunate enough, Main Street was, during the, right before we started with the reopening process, the National Main Street Center announced the Grills Fund. The Grills is a family that's really involved with revitalization of downtowns. They serve on the board of the National Trust and the National Main Street Center. And they decided to allocate some of their funds to, at first, it was going to be 5 communities to each receive possibly $10,000 to help their district with the reopening process, post-COVID work, what have you. And so we were excited to be able to receive one of those. They actually ended up awarding 8 of them across the country. And so this was funded, again, by the Grills Fund for Main Street Revitalization, and it's being administered through the National Main Street. But recently, with some of these graphics here from Google, and you guys all know how important the digital world has become. For us here in downtown Lawrence, we're working obviously with a lot of mom and pop businesses. And so when the COVID shutdown happened, we had, I'm going to say probably 2 or 3 businesses that pivoted really quickly and changed their business model and reached out to us for help. And we tried to help them as much as we possibly could so that they could stay viable. We also did some curbside parking signs and that sort of thing to help. But our focus then became, what can we do to help our businesses moving forward and into the future? And as we went through the COVID shutdown, you know, more and more data was coming out about how important the online shopping was. So just this first one, you know, 90% of, or the majority of media consumption is screen-based. And I would say 90% of our businesses in downtown Lawrence are not using any type of media that's screen-based. So again, we felt like this would be a great way to reach out to them and help build their capacity moving forward. And of course, online shopping is just going to continue to grow. In a survey that we did locally, we found that the majority of folks, I think it was 82% of our respondents, said they enjoyed the online shopping and would like to see that continue moving forward. Justin. Next slide, Justin. So the digital audit is sort of a basic idea that we're going to reach out to our businesses with. We want to know, what are they using currently to reach their customers? What are they doing technology-wise? Do they have websites? Do they have social media presence? Are they using Google Analytics? All the different tools that are out there. We also are going to be surveying them to find out what their biggest need is. One of our early surveys, of course, and you could guess this, their biggest answers were cash and customers. Well, we can't really help with too much of either of those, but we can help make sure that they have the ability to reach their customers. And we have partnered with a group called Small Town Soul out of North Carolina. And they're going to be working with us to host this digital audit. So the businesses will do the digital audit themselves so that we can sort of have a baseline of where they are, and then we'll see how Main Street can help moving forward. With the digital audit, the Small Town Soul folks use something that I saw at the North Carolina Main Street Conference that I thought was really good. It brought it really into perspective for me. They call it lunch plate marketing and how to feed your business. So you can see the image there of the lunch plate. And if you think about it from when we were all in school, the largest section of the lunch plate is where the meat or the entree goes. And so the folks with Small Town Soul feel like that the website is one of the most important parts. So they go through the whole lunch plate and how those different aspects relate to your business. So the social is considered the side. And, you know, just like a side complements the main dish, social media complements all the other parts of your marketing plan. And it's an important part because nobody wants to eat dinner without any sides. And so nobody needs to try to run a business without any of that social media aspect as part of their business. Justine. So another one is the dessert. And like it says here, you know, that's considered the business collateral. We all like dessert, but we don't all need it. I know I don't need it all the time. But the same can also be said for business collateral. So we want to teach the businesses what type of business collateral would work best for them. And then the brand is the seasoning. You know, make sure that they have a brand that reflects what their business is, what their business model is, who their customers are. So these are some of the topics that we will touch base with the businesses on. And then after that process, after we do the workshops, we've built into the grant some money where we will work one-on-one with the businesses to identify their biggest needs. And with some buy-in from them, we will hope to be able to get, you know, depending on how many are interested and what their needs are, how expensive those needs are, at least 2 to 3 businesses better equipped with either a new website or an improved website if they already have one, possibly set them up for e-commerce. So we built into the grant about $5,500 that we will be able to offer up as an individual grant for them. The idea though too is that we will have these businesses come in as we work with them. Maybe we'll do a Sunday afternoon, Monday morning, and then Monday afternoon, myself and possibly Amanda and a couple other folks from the chamber and some other people in our community that are real tech savvy will be there with our laptops, and our businesses can make an appointment to come in and talk with me, and we can pull up their website or pull up their social media and actually give them some tips while we're there to get them started and get them thinking about the future of their business. Justine? So in the end, the reason why we're doing all this, of course, is we want to have measured results. We know that we'll have a baseline through the audit of where they are. We want to be able to have these metrics to show how beneficial the plan is. And so we can show how their business has grown by adding in more social media, more e-commerce. We're going to be able to bring in additional partners, like I mentioned, the chamber and several others within the community who have an interest in our businesses and our entrepreneurs growing. This will also be a tool that Main Street Lawrence can use when we have entrepreneurs come to us and talk about wanting to open a business. This will be a toolkit that we can offer to them as part of the other guides that we give them about how to make sure that they're ready to get started, or how to pivot the business they're already looking at, and how to use these tools to grow their business and be prepared for the next slowdown when in-person shopping is less than what it is now. And we know, unfortunately, that's going to happen, but we want to make sure that our businesses are the best prepared. So that's sort of a quick overview of how the digital audit's going to work. And then we do all this too in partnership with Amanda and the chamber. So Amanda, I think you start after this slide.
I apologize. Erin, did you have anything to say in between?
I was going to say thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that. That was give us a lot to think about. And now Amanda, because of her work with the chamber, she works. Remember, there's not only are there the Main Street businesses and the divisions of the large corporations in all of our counties, there are all those privately held businesses in the middle, and they need to be able to be supported and to grow and to thrive as well. And Amanda is going to talk about how she's taking what Jonathan's doing and amplifying it to that group and across the county. So Amanda, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So as the Chamber of Commerce, I'm sure I don't need to go into a description necessarily about what we do as a chamber, but we do have a very large county that we cover. So I feel like we're very blessed to have 2 Main Street organizations within our county, but there, as Erin mentioned, there's a lot of businesses that kind of fall in the middle of those and aren't necessarily represented within that district. So as a county chamber, we try to cover those businesses, but also work very closely with the Main Street organization. So Jonathan and I have a fantastic partnership, and I'll often utilize his resources to learn from, and we work together as much as we can. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start with this brief presentation. There's so many different things that I can talk about during this time about how we've rallied around our small businesses and the plan that we put together to support them. And we've called it a recovery plan from COVID, but it's also just a plan that will hopefully continue on to help us all help our businesses be vibrant and be successful for many, many years to come. This situation certainly opened our eyes to a lot of things, and I'll go into that a little bit. So with the whole COVID pandemic that's been happening, we decided to put together a plan, and it's based on supporting, strengthening, and engaging our local businesses. So supporting is really around the financial assistance and making sure they have the resources that are out, or know of the resources, they're knowledgeable about those resources. And then, of course, promoting those businesses. And then the strengthening, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. You can tell I get so excited about it. The strengthening aspect is really the foundational building blocks for these businesses. And then, of course, we want to engage our community, our anchor businesses, and the industries to support and think local. So I see Jonathan smiling. Like I said, I get on a roll and I'm just going on. So, but for these purposes today, I really want to talk about the support aspect of what we're working on. So you can see our Think Local. Oh, sorry, Justine, will you please move to the next slide? Thank you. So we have hosted quite a few roundtable discussions through Zoom. Jonathan's been a big part of that. And we've just really listened. We listened to lots of different sectors in the community, a lot of different businesses, and we've asked them what their biggest obstacle has been. And that's this sweet lady, Peg. She is inside the Artist Coop in downtown, and she has a little adorable coffee shop. And she said, we need customers. And I can just see her saying that. That was a picture taken previously. So then we talked about, why do you need customers? Well, because they need money. And so then from there, we talked about how communication is key with those customers to let them know what your hours are, what you're doing to adjust to the times, and how they're able to support you as a business and utilize your services. So like with Peg as an example, she is only doing curbside. So she's running all of her coffees outside to everyone as they call in their orders, which is a great way to adjust. But part of the importance of that is making sure the customers realize that's how she's operating these days. Justine, will you please move to the next slide? So we decided as a chamber, we're like, okay, we're going to use our Think Local social media outlets, and we're going to ramp it up. We're going to just start sharing everything we possibly can that we see on everybody else's social medias, and we're going to make sure that we help get that message out there for these businesses. Well, then as we started searching, we were like, wait a minute, they're not telling their story. So how are we able to help tell their story? So many of these businesses don't have social media accounts and don't keep them up to date. And that was something that Jonathan's already mentioned. But he was obviously working on this alongside us, and he's thankfully gotten this grant, because we certainly will utilize that as a resource to see how they do that. But a lot of that social media and communications is non-existent, and that's something that we have come to realize. So it's 2020, and there's something obviously has slipped through the cracks. If as a Chamber of Commerce, we're trying to share information about our businesses and it's not out there, and we're worried about their communication, but we're also struggling with that communication as well, which once more is very key during these times. Justine. So that goes into what Jonathan mentioned, and so we are implementing what we're calling a partner program. Part of that will be that we'll work with Jonathan for that afternoon that he discussed about working one-on-one with businesses, but we're going to expand that a little bit and kind of assign, we've got a group of people that will be assigned to some businesses to meet with them virtually or whatever their comfort level is, to discuss kind of what the business is already doing and how they may be able to do a better job. So we've done all these workshops, and we have all these materials and all these resources that we're pushing out to these businesses, but a lot of times they're not utilizing those. So we need to make sure, starting from like a grassroots efforts, we're working with these businesses one-on-one to help them be successful, because we're just assuming that this has all been absorbed and utilized, and clearly it has not. So Justine. Another piece of this is we have started what we call our local business buzz. And one of the roundtable discussions, we were like, what can we do? How can we support our businesses? And somebody's like, you need to get out there and talk to them. And you need to make sure that people are familiar with what's going on in these businesses and showcase how cool these entrepreneurs are, because we have such an amazing community. And some of these are generational businesses that have been there forever. So I put on here, get outside of your comfort zone, because it certainly wasn't something that I know that there are some people in the world that enjoy getting in front of the camera, but it's also can be intimidating. And there's a lot of these businesses that we have struggled with trying to get them to participate in these interviews that we're doing, but we're encouraging them to get outside of their comfort zone, as we are as well, to make sure that we just get that message out and that we're supporting them in that way, because getting outside of your comfort zone is obviously necessary for growth. Oh, and I had to put a plug in. If you haven't watched, please do go and check out on our Chamber Facebook page, our local business buzz. Like I said, just a really cool community and some really cool businesses with great history here. Justine. So another thing that we've done as we've been doing these, this picture here is Ashley Smith. She's a local realtor. She's not actually from Lawrence County, but she's got a true passion and love for the community. So she's one of what I call our cheerleaders. So we have pulled together a group of people that we can post things, and then I reach out to them and say, hey, will you share this? Or they automatically do it. They're all over us. They're sharing, they're posting. or reposting, I guess that's the same thing, excuse me, and they're making comments and they're liking, and yes, they're getting it engaged and they're helping spread that word. So we kind of have those people already in place to help push that information out. And that is another thing that we're encouraging our businesses to do, you know, get the people that are your best customers and make sure that they're aware of the importance of helping promote you. So there's so many times, and I know I'm guilty of it, you know, I'll look through Facebook and I'm like, oh, that's great, I love that, but I don't necessarily react to it at all. But in my mind I am, but I'm not physically doing it. So it's important to make sure you've got that group of people that in their minds are supporting you, but also are physically putting that out there. And then another piece of this is, Justine, if you'll move on, please. Another piece of this is to make sure that you utilize, or we are encouraging our businesses in Lawrence County to utilize their resources through the chamber and through Main Street. So not only is it important to have that group of cheerleaders that you're making sure are telling the community how much they love you, not just you as an individual business, but, you know, make sure that the Main Street organizations, the Chamber of Commerce, 10 at the top, whoever it may be, has the information so that they're able to share it as well. You know, so the bottom line is, just because you put it out there on social media doesn't necessarily mean that everyone is going to grab that and run with it, or that everyone's going to see it. Because that's another thing when we've talked to some of the businesses, they're like, well, we put it on Facebook, so doesn't that mean that everybody knows about it? Well, no, it doesn't. You know, so, you know, make sure these people are rallying around to help spread that word, and that the resources are being used. Because I think a lot of times the most obvious things, at least to us, get overlooked. And this is a very simple way that we're really supporting our businesses with very, very small details that make a really huge impact on helping get the word out about how fantastic these businesses are and how they're clearly adjusting to the times and pivoting, as Jonathan says, to continue to be successful, so that we continue to be successful and have a vibrant Lawrence County. So that is all that I have. It's actually not. I could talk for
Thank you.
for much longer, but
Yeah, well, already I know I'm thinking about lots of things, and we do have 2 questions that have come through the chat. But also, if you'd like to ask a question, please unmute yourself and ask. But I'm going to ask these 2 first.
okay.
And this is Lawrence a testing ground for kind of this traveling resource model, meaning since Jonathan, since you're learning how to work with the companies, are you then going to take this other places?
So part of the grant was the projects they chose had to be replicable in other communities, and we felt like this could be the way we're doing it could be from really simple, you know, a 1-pager PDF document that the businesses can check what they're doing, to an online survey, you know, as far as the individual communities want to take it. But the other cool thing that's happened since we started our discussion, because we also had our state program in discussion with us as we were doing the grants, is our state program has also coordinated with this company out of North Carolina. So they're going to come in and offer a similar program. They're going to go into more in depth with us, though, because it's going to be like a 8 or 10-week period. But they're going to offer the training for the Main Street, South Carolina directors starting the first part of July. So the other communities will get a smaller version, sort of like a snapshot of social media or tech audit for their community as well. And then they're going to sort of teach us how to lead other groups in that. So yes, it's something that could be taken and used in other parts for sure.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So also, Amanda, maybe this is a good one for you. Are you finding that the businesses are challenged by looking at investing in digital resources when they did not invest in them before, especially now while we're in COVID?
I would definitely say there's some challenges, because a lot of the businesses, a lot of what I'm talking about are these very generational mom and pop, very small businesses that we see are super important for our community, but it's always been done the way they've always done it, and they've got customers, you know, so they're kind of stuck in their comfort zone. So yeah, there's challenges there, but a lot of the things that we're working towards really don't take a huge financial investment. It is more of a time investment, and it's also just changing that culture or that mindset so that they're willing to look at it a little bit differently, that just because they have a really great group of customers and it's a generational thing, a lot of those customers are aging and they need to get new customers coming in so they're able to continue their business. So I definitely think there's challenges in every area, but we're just kind of taking it business by business.
And Aaron, one of the areas, and Amanda and I talked about this yesterday, that first of all, the chamber has gotten a grant from the county that they're going to be able to offer some micro grants to our businesses here in the county, which we're super excited about. I think she's going to have me serve on the allocation committee or something. But one of the groups was our service industry. And an example, downtown, we have a salon here, and she contacted me. They're members of Main Street. She's on several of our committees. And so we were trying to figure out what they could do because they had zero income during the shutdown. And because of the way it was set up, they were not eligible for PPP or EIDL or any of the other assistance that was out there. And so we thought about, well, could she put together a package of, you know, shampoo and conditioner or whatever, and call it some little cute COVID basket or whatever. Well, all of the products she had belonged to her stylist and not to her individually. So I think it's a matter of being able to work with people like her, who she's a young entrepreneur. She's pretty tech savvy, but she didn't really know how to do gift cards. So we designed a simple gift card for her that she was able to just sell via Facebook, but being able to change or add to her website or whatever she may have for the booking of the salon to add that component in there to help with the future. That's another example from.
Okay. All right, very good. So then another question that just came in was kind of similar to what you were saying is do you directly assist the business owners with how to use Facebook and Instagram and Twitter? I mean, are you doing the physical training? And you kind of said that you are working with some more technical savvy people in the community, but who is actually doing the training?
Unfortunately, yes, it is us. We have to be pretty hands-on with a lot of the businesses. Now, some, like Amanda said, are already pretty tech savvy, but we have some that have zero presence. And so that's the other part of what we have to look at with our grant money is, you know, let's say XYZ comes in and they want to start a website. Well, are they going to be able to maintain that? If we invest money in it and they invest money, are they going to be able to maintain it? And for some, that may be the case. For some, it may not. And if it's not, then can we partner them with somebody maybe with the local schools? Because as we all know, the teenagers know more about all this stuff than anybody else. So could we partner them with a teenager that could help them with some of their social media aspects? But yeah, it's a lot of hand-holding from Main Street's perspective. It's a lot of hand-holding.
Well, and it will also be from the chamber perspective, and once again, partner with Main Street's. But a lot of what we're working on is putting together the resources and helping connect those dots. So if someone is really struggling with Facebook, is there something that Ben Calhoun's already offering? And we've talked with Ben about coming to do a workshop in the near future on Google. So there are different resources out there that we just need to do a better job as a chamber connecting to make sure that they understand what those resources are. And that's what I mentioned earlier. We send out all these emails saying, hey, read this, and everybody's so busy, they just, oh, I'll get to it later. So that's where that one-on-one conversation and contact comes in and why that's important.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. There is would anyone like to ask a question? Feel free to unmute yourself. I'm not used to y'all being so quiet. So, okay, all right, very good. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. So I do have another question did come in. See, since a big challenge is getting people in the stores, what is being done to encourage the general public to go to stores?
So I'll start. I think part of what Main Street was doing was we were encouraging them to shop local. We were doing a lot of online social media sharing. Again, our Main Street network ramped up where if Laura in Greenwood she created a tic-tac-toe board for shopping downtown. And so she would send that out to our group and then we would be able to change it and put our brand on it and use that. So we did a lot of kind of fun things like that. We also, like Amanda mentioned, we have a lot of folks here in Lawrence that aren't on social media. So Main Street Lawrence ran several ads during the shutdown to remind folks to shop via curbside, via online, and remind them who our businesses were that were open during the shutdown, what their hours were, how they could get in contact with them. So that's kind of how we handle that to get the general public into the store. But again, Main Street is responsible for the majority of events that happen downtown, and that's where the businesses are saying we want customers. So now we're looking at what can we do to bring some customers down with an event that's going to be safe, and we can put all the safety guidelines in place for. And sidewalk sales seem to be a good thing. We've had several businesses that have done those on their own, and of course it's outside, so you don't have quite as many challenges. But we're looking at some things from that perspective that we can do to try to get some folks back downtown again.
Okay, thank you. Amanda, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, it's a little more challenging for us because once more we have to we have to try to cover all of Lawrence County and support all of the communities here. So that goes back to our Think Local efforts and just really promoting the importance of thinking local, shopping local, and supporting those local businesses during these times, and our local business buzz, because we're able to get that information out there. Grace and the other girl that does the videos, if you all watch them, and you definitely should go and watch them, she went into a salon the other day, and the lady there, she's like, I'm here because of you. She's like, I saw your local business buzz, and I was looking to get my hair done, and so I called them because I was interested, because I got to kind of meet the girls through your video, so we're like I said, I know it's very small steps, but at the same time, we feel like we're kind of opening the doors through those videos and hopefully giving a level of comfort, and everybody's just got to find their comfort level.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Laura? Wait, we can't hear you. I don't know why we can't hear you. Laura, maybe if you could type it into the chat. I don't know, you're on unmute. You're not muted. But for everybody, Steve Johnson has a good question in chat. What is the current attitude amongst small biz owners about how best to open up their doors during the pandemic? And also, is there a resistance to mask wearing? Would anybody like to answer that? And of course, Jonathan and Amanda as well.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Good, there we go. Because that was exactly what I was going to talk about. I'm in Greenwood, and as Jonathan said, we're a Main Street community as well. And a few weeks back, we started a campaign about how to bring people back uptown and how to make them feel safely. And we got a lot of pushback. So we reached out to our hospital here, and we share a hospital system with a lot of the Lawrence County folks as well. And we, as well as the city and the county and our local chamber, have signed on to their PSA kind of messaging that they're doing about masks. So beginning next week, we are going out door to door, basically to all city businesses that, we're going to start with Uptown and then reach out into the other city businesses that are not within our downtown district. And we're going to be delivering packets of masks, as well as we've been joking all week that the governor stole our idea. We have a business pledge that he did the Palmetto Priority Pledge. Well, we did it already. He stole our idea. But we're going to have a pledge that our businesses will agree to, and they will have a sign just like his decal that they can put that they've agreed to. We don't look for our city council to require masks. We just know how they feel, so we don't think that's going to happen. So we feel like from an industry level, we're going to encourage the mask, and we feel like people will be willing to, that's a little more palatable than the government saying you must wear a mask. But if our small business community says we encourage you to wear a mask, people will accept that a little more. So I think that's helping with some of that pushback from wearing masks, because you have, it's pretty split. A lot of the people are adamant they don't want to wear a mask, and you've got another 50% that are wearing the mask. So we're trying to meet in the middle, but we're going to do that along with the chamber and reach out and just take those masks and offer the pledge, so to speak, to them to help with some of that, because the hospital has been really adamant about making sure, and we actually send any messaging that we are putting out, we send it to the hospital and they kind of run it up by their command center that's and gets their blessing, I guess, so to speak. And it's helped us communicate to the public what the importance is of the mask and why they should wear them and all those things. So that's been helpful for us to be able to partner not only with the other business associations, but with the hospital as well.
Okay, Laura, thank you. In your chat, if you're not looking at it, Peter Gasca is here visiting, but we hope he will join us every time we meet from now on. He is from Coastal Carolina area, and he has made some very good points about what's happening down there and the visitors from out of town. So feel free to look at that. And Peter, if you'd like to unmute yourself, we've got a few minutes here before we have to wrap up and say something.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to keep the video off because I'm just got out of another meeting and took my dress shirt off, and I've got lunch in front of me. So I'll spare you all the food issues. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you, Amy, for inviting me. Yeah, the challenge, obviously, as most of you have heard, is that we have an increasing amount of COVID cases down here on the coast. United Airlines, I think yesterday or the day before, recently discontinued service to Myrtle Beach. And there's a lot of national news about the cases coming out of Myrtle Beach. And as somebody who has been downtown on numerous occasions, I can tell you there's nothing. It looks like spring break downtown. And that's partly because there's a lot of businesses closed. So there's no place for everybody to go. But, leadership and all that aside, what I can tell you from the businesses that I have gone to is I think there's generally this feeling that masks are, there's a lot of resistance to masks from the patrons. So I think the businesses themselves may be a little bit hesitant to really, really enforce the social distancing, the masks when they're in a facility, because they don't want to lose the business, because it is such an important time for us during this time. So I think there needs to be more of a community around the small businesses that say, it's okay. It's okay if we're all saying that we have to do this, then we don't have to be, we don't have to adhere to what the patrons want so much. And, the kind of, not so much the customer is always right in this situation. So the ideas that have been coming have been great, because I am working with a couple of small businesses here that are struggling to reopen, and hesitant to really enforce these maps. I think having the community is great. I think a pledge is a really great idea. Like you can put something on the outside of your building that says we're standing united for this. And hopefully if you can enact that, you can avoid a lot of the issues that we're having.
All right, good. Peter, thank you very much for joining us again and for sharing your thoughts and suggestions, as well as applaud for what we're doing up here. Does anyone have anything else? No? Okay, well then, Justine, the next slide, please. So I just want to remind you to send your events to Justine, J. Allen at, sorry, just looking, the chat distracted me, J. Allen at 10atTheTop.org. And then, of course, we do have our Slack channel, which I have to say I have been slack about using. So I apologize for that. But feel free to join that and send messages, because it's a very easy way to connect with each other's kind of from a back channel perspective. So Justine? All right, so we are going to wrap up right now, and I just want to let you know administratively, Justine will have a copy of the chat that she will send everyone. We will have copies of this webinar and all of us on Zoom available, as well as the slides for all of you too. So there will be a follow-up email in the next couple of days, and if someone does need something for one of their entrepreneurs, or they've got a question, feel free to email me or Justine, and we will look to do what we can to connect you to the right resource. Anybody, anything else? See y'all on July 22nd. Have a great 4th. Thanks, y'all. Thanks, Jonathan and Amanda.
Thank you.
Bye.